Hello, my friends. This is Pernilla. I just connected with a new friend because on a Zoom call that we were on, one of my coaching calls, where I still am learning about so many things about, how to promote business, how to create beautiful designs for the website or how to present webinars, a lot of things on the practical side that I'm not very proficient in. So it's nice for me to have an ongoing support there. And today there was somebody sharing about the matrix and exit in the matrix. And, I just perked up. It's like, ooh, that sounds very familiar. So I reached out and we connected. And normally, when I'm on these coaching calls with groups, sometimes smaller, sometimes bigger, it's not a common subject. Many people are working on, healing, how to heal others, how to bring their work out. Um, it's not, the word matrix doesn't come up often, except from my side, because that is very much what I'm about these days, along with all the things I talk about, the longing, the self-love, connecting to the field, same thing. And it all works together as we are slowly dismantling our identity, our grasp, our attachment to the matrix. And I just talked about that again, I think yesterday and probably the day before and the day before that. But it was very refreshing to just connect with somebody who is pretty much experiencing it all in a similar way as I do. And I think we both agreed that many times the exiting or getting out of the matrix, for some people, that means, getting out of the cities, not getting off the grid, being on land with other people who are, want to get out of the system and being a prepper, building homes in a new way and living more in community and as community. And I am all about that. And I think it is really sweet, for me at least, to connect back to the earth, to connect with other people. That's kind of been with me probably my whole life. And so it's not just, to get out of the matrix. It's just because it's very enjoyable. As long as we are here in the matrix, hey, why not at least enjoy it as much as we can? For me, that is a way to enjoy it. And growing my own food and sharing the food and all the things that I do. But there is another side to it, because that is not necessarily waking up out of the matrix. That is waking up out of a part of the matrix, but we may still find ourselves completely immersed in the matrix, because that is all that we know, as long as we are identified with our mind, that is our body, that is the way we think, feel, hear, taste, touch, those are the five senses. And as long as I can see my body with my eyes, with my visual sense, then I can actually know that this is also matrix. It's a mind projection. There's nothing real about it. And as I have shared a lot about what Joe Goldsmith said about it, he calls it an error or hypnotism, impersonal, not real. And that's what we're all dealing with. And I think we can all agree that the body seems really, really real, right? We walk around in it all day long. We see through it, we hear through it, we taste, we eat food, all these things. So, what can be more real than our bodies? And if we bring that unreal body onto the land, which is still visible and audible, it's still all the matrix. But there's nothing wrong with that. We can still enjoy it for what it is. But as long as we are identified with it, it's not necessarily enjoyable. And again, guys, I'm not trying to pretend that I'm fully out of the matrix and totally disidentified with it, because I'm not. It's an ongoing process. Every morning when I wake up, I still wake up in a virtual reality, and I don't always remember that all the time, but it is very helpful for me to remember it consciously many times during the day. In that way, I do take my energy and my power out of the matrix and then place it here on the one that is aware of the virtual reality, and put more attention here than there. That's one of the things we can do. And we can also move out of the cities onto the land. Many people know that there are these 15-minute cities that are being programmed for us all, that we all need to live in. If you believe in any of that, or if you have heard of any of that, it doesn't really matter, but just to know that that is still part of the matrix. And moving out of the city onto the land, it's still part of the matrix unless and until we realize that it is all the matrix. And wow, I'm really talking about the matrix today in a maybe a little bit of a deeper way, but sometimes it's good to put it out. Many times I say it in a way because I want to be able to meet you, so we can reach each other. If I meet you here and you're here, then there is the gap, and then there's no connection. If that's what I want, if I want to connect and share what my experience is as it's being shown to me, or as it is revealing itself to me. And then sometimes, I speak and I'm like, I wonder if anybody knows what the heck I'm talking about. And that's okay. That also comes through as like, okay, it's just time to share a little more about that, which is not necessarily my thing. But I guess my thing is more that we start realizing that we really are not any of it, whether you move to the land or not, whether you prep or not, whether you, whatever anybody is moved to do based on how we are being uh, prepared or inspired or motivated. I think it's still incredibly important that we bring in the spiritual part that of who we truly are. And that has nothing to do with living in a city or living on the land. Being a Christian or Muslim or Catholic, being any kind of gender, whether you want to be proud of it or you want to defend it, or whatever you want to do, it is still part of the matrix that we are all being programmed to believe in. And it is quite challenging to wake up to all of it. There is a tendency, and again, I see that in myself, to see it clearly. And then that's often when I want to share it. That doesn't mean that, the next day or a week or a month later, I can get pulled in again by the matrix. I usually get out of it quickly again when I see it. But even though we may walk around as this presence, as this light, as this I, when you just drop into I am, it's a totally different experience. I think I've shared some meditations on my channel about that. But then this bombardment, we're being bombarded by the matrix 24/7. So that means that we have to be vigilant 24/7. And that's very hard. It's like you have to just be um, so present and so committed to this and not be pulled in by it. But we do, and it's okay. It doesn't mean that you're bad or you did something wrong. It just means like, oh, oops, I got pulled in again because it's right in my face. And the more the outer world is coming up with dramas and fear mongering, and now this projection of something catastrophic is being put in our face, and it's like, oh, we have to be careful of that. Lately I'm seeing like, oh my God, this winter is going to be this and that, and prepare for floods, or if another season, prepare for fires. And it's just coming at it. It never used to be that intense. If we had a hot summer with over 100 degrees, which we often have here where I live, all the years I've lived here, it was like, hey, it's going to be a hot summer. Now it's like, drama and terror and putting in fear. And that is all the matrix. If you disagree with me right now, that is fine. It doesn't matter. It's still something I'm experiencing as what I'm seeing. And you can just notice when you get these fear-mongering news headlines, what happens with you. Probably like, you contract and you try to grasp onto something out there that will make you feel safe. But it's still the matrix. It's all the matrix. All the things that we have been conditioned and programmed to believe. And there are many, many, many sacred cows. Many. And we can't see them. I will admit there's probably 1,000 I'm not seeing at this moment. But that's okay, because maybe I've seen 115, and that has given me a lot more freedom. So I think the point I'm trying to make, if I just reflect on it, is that we just have to go with what we experience and then do our best to come back to that as often as we can and be open. This is probably a big one. Be open to having been wrong our whole lives. It's like, ooh, that's a big one. The things we learned at school, the things they taught us in the church, all the rules and regulations that we're supposed to live by, according to the government or health-wise. It's endless. And you can just notice like how many of these sacred cows are you willing to defend? There's probably a lot. And how willing are you to be open to be wrong? It's okay to see through things, even though it's something we have identified with our whole lives. It's okay. It's not bad or wrong. We are on a trajectory of seeing one layer or 10 layers at a time. And sometimes it can be shocking. It's like, oh my God, I believed that was true my whole life. I believed what these people were saying was law, was real, was important. And then you find out, oops, it's not true. This finding out that it's not true is something we have to feel in here. There has to be something that we are willing to resonate with. So if I share something of what I've seen from here, and you're moving here or here or here, and I'm not touching you, I'm not meeting you in a place where you can go, oh, I see. Oh, that's true. That does not make sense. But I have never thought of it because it just seems so obvious that water is wet, that the heaven is blue. There's these things that we never question. And then when we start questioning them, wowsy, there's a lot going on that needs to be questioned. And as we do that and go through it might startle us, it may rattle our whole life, and it does often. But then if we learn to just let ourselves be rattled and let that move through, we can find more peace, we can find more presence, and then we can rest in that and then start getting our information or insight or inspiration or expression from here. So different than getting it from information out here that is all going to the mind. When we get it on an internal level, it's a totally different experience, totally different. And in that experience, there's something that you can't deny. It might be intuition, we can call it intuition, and it might be something else, another word, but it is something that is felt in here, and you can't argue with it. It is so obvious. That experience is so alive and rich and undeniable, I would say. So, in my own experience over the years, I've learned to trust this more and more and more. And in the beginning, it was scary because people say, no, you're crazy. That can't be true. And, look at the evidence here or the evidence there. And then I would doubt myself. I would go, oh. But there was something inside of me that knew, even though I didn't believe it or trust it or still doubting it, there was still something here. And that is what I have learned to trust more than anything over the years. And it really feels like a pillar of light in the darkness that I can always go like, something is not right here. And then just let this show me what is true. Let this show me what is right. And what is true is never to be found out here because none of it is true. And I would quote Joe Goldsmith for a lot of that realization of that and not giving it power and not touching it, because you realize that it has no power unless we give it power. The true power is who we already are. And the only thing we need to do is bringing our attention back, putting it here, and then listening, not with our outer ear, but with the inner ear. And sometimes the answers come quickly, and sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes the answers are there, but we don't know quite how to trust them yet or how to act on them yet. So it's a long process. It's a long process of learning, letting go, trusting, acting on it. Doesn't happen overnight. But I guess today the invitation is to just maybe question things before you, just by habit, accept it because you read it in the news, you heard it in the news, you read it in the newspaper, you heard a podcast, you read it on social media. It's easy to just dismiss things or believe things because these people say so. But it's much, much better to pause and feel in here. Just feel what's happening in here beyond the emotional attachment that somebody has to be right or somebody has to be wrong. It's beyond that. And that's a learning curve for us all to keep trusting this deeper and deeper. I hope you're all up for that because to me, and you may disagree, I always say it's just my experience, but to me, this is the solution to creating the world we want to live in. And we're not creating it, we're just basically opening up to it because it's already here when we choose to look here and not look there. So let's give that a chance.